Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle, the first edition with a new man in charge as head coach. Stuart Maynard has taken over the reins at Notts County, moving across from Wealdstone, going from part-time to full-time. Also on this day, we have a new centre-half added to the ranks. Jaden Warner has come in on loan from Norwich. I think a lot of positivity about that. Of course, no game at the weekend. Stockport fell victim to the weather. So it's a look ahead to Barrow this coming Saturday. So how are we all? What do we think of the new head coach? One incoming. Do we want more? With us to dissect all of that, Mark Stallard. Mark, delighted to have you on board the show. Let's kick off. New head coach. I think you could say the continuity candidate appointment. Some people, okay, how big a step up is it for him, do you think, from a part-time setup in the National League to Football League Two?
Yeah, there's an obvious step up between, just the fact from going part-time to full-time. You have to manage your weeks, your sort of day-to-day business. I believe he was a BT engineer when he worked for Openreach or whatever previously, part-time. But he's proved that he will a job and do management. He's done fantastically well with Wealdstone. Obviously, a different sort of pool that he'll be fishing in to Notts. And he's consolidated. I think I'm right in saying that every year under them they finished higher up the table, to the point where they're sort of consolidated mid-table National League team. Yeah. So he's obviously proved that he can do the job. I think we spoke about it when we played them last season. That the way they sort of aim to play the game, very similar. You're right when you say sort of a continuity style of management. Evolution rather than revolution, changing everything. That's not the case. So I think he's going to play a very similar style, similar brand of football to what Notts have been playing under Luke Williams. But you're right, it's always a challenge. Going to a new club as a player, as a manager, whether you're experienced, inexperienced, it's always a challenge. You always want to get your feet under the table and you want to get off, to a good start. You want to win the first few games. We welcome him to the club first and foremost, and we wish him all the success and all the luck in the world. So we hope he does get off to a great start, and that will help him settle in more than anything else. Like I say, they'll be probably grateful of not having the game on Saturday. If they're absolutely honest, chance to work with the players, chance to get a few points across, because although it will only be tweaks probably in terms of changes, there will be differences. There will be different. He is not Luke Williams. He's not a clone of Luke Williams. They'll play a similar brand of football, but he will want to tweak things and put his, Stuart Maynard stamp on things, and he'll assess where he thinks there are room for improvement. He'll assess where we're strong and try and develop that as well, and just try and get the balance of the team right, which is what we've been saying for a few weeks about, this balance between attack and defending.
Good opening point, Stel. Let's go to the message boards and get a few thoughts from our flock. Pythagorean says, evening all, important that we have a coach who seemingly drops into the same slot as Luke. Maynard seems to tick that box. Pleased with Warner coming too. Just need another comfortable on the ball defender. Hello from Karen Knight, Jurgen Halligan. Good to see Jaden, a defender coming in from Norwich. Maynard seems like he will be a good fit for Notts. Evening all from Kevin Pointer, as it is from Ian Birchinall. After such a quiet time, I'm not sure what there is to talk about, he says. Well, it is ironic, no match at the weekend, but there's plenty to get through. Evening from Paul Huskerson, Pete Cowlishaw. Wow, what a week, and we don't even have a match to talk about. Lippy Jane, I couldn't make Saturday's game, so was very pleased at being called off for lots of reasons. But yes, what a week, time to regroup. Kay rubbing it in. Good evening from Fuerteventura. Come on, you pies. Cosmic Nelly, evening. Rich Hawksworth, one of our regulars. Evening all. So is the new lad ready to be thrown in? It feels like he may be going by the. It feels like he may be going to be, given by the wording during the interview on the website. Thoughts? We'll be discussing that and more. Jurgen adds, could be a blessing Stockport being called off. Give Maynard a whole week with the players. Evening from Duncan Comrie. Chris Gosling, feels like a good week in the making of the next chapter for our club. Looking forward to seeing this young Norwich lad, says Royston. 1971 Rob M. Evening all, what a week. New head coach, frozen pitch. Yes, James Sanderson signs a pro deal and Warner comes in on loan. Need to take a breath. Evening to another one of our regulars, AD Clark. Looking forward to this one. Bring on Saturday. Should be a great atmosphere. Ian G, BT Engineers, Black and White Army. Got to say, he is going to be an absolute dream for all the cliche-ridden headline writers. You know, ringing a tune out of knots, you know, engaged, this, that. I mean, manna from heaven. You will just see hundreds of them, I'm sure, between now and the end of the season. These dodgy, corny headlines, which we'll try and avoid tonight. No issue with us taking a manager from the National League, says Rich Hawksworth. Ian Birchinall, I see it as an opportunity. Doing what he did part-time should mean he does well full-time. Chris Gosling, listened to a lot of old interviews with him and his assistant Saunders. Really like what he has to offer. We have the perfect infrastructure to enable them to flourish. That'll do it for the time being. There's plenty more still to come. Stel, let's deal kind of like with the headline stuff. And how big a jump is it from part-time? You mentioned it in your first answer, from being a part-time manager to a full-time. There are precedents that have done very well and very seamlessly. The Cowleys did it most recently, going from Braintree to Lincoln. They were teachers while they were managing Braintree. In years gone by, you can talk of very high-level managers. Laurie McMenemy from the Jurassic era didn't have a great playing career. Jurgen Klopp didn't, you know, if you want to sort of look at it in that position. Nor did Arsene Wenger. But you know, professional footballers can be a cynical bunch. How hard does Stuart have to work, if at all, to win over this group of players? What will they be thinking in the dressing room? You've been there before when there's been change of managers, and has that affect me? I'm not in the team. Will he bring me in? All of those sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, look, as much as we're saying he's a continuation, but you know, he's very similar in style of play to Luke Williams. He is different. Every personality, every person is a different person, and has got different facets about them. From a player's point of view in the dressing room, it was always a little bit of an uncertain period, and that's why I say, I think, you know, yeah, we would love to play Stockport on Saturday, but I think having the game off is no bad thing.
Yeah,
because the players will just be feeling a little bit, all right, you know, what's he about? Will he fancy me as a player? Will he, you know, how will he be different? What will his training sessions be like? What differences is he going to make to how we've been playing? How is my role going to change? What's he going to expect of me? You know, and all them sort of questions that you have, all them, it's not doubts, I suppose it's more, you know, intrigue. You're waiting to see. Come on, and let's have a look at you. Let's see what your sessions are like. Let's see what your speech is like, what your meetings are like, things like that. And you very quickly, you know, get a handle on people, on the new manager, new coaches. But it does just when it changes, you do have that sort of crossover period. Again, that's why I say if you come in sort of two days before a game, or a few days before a game, as big as the Stockport game would have been, then maybe there's a bit of uncertainty in the players, what they're being asked to do. But with a full week's training, you know, on the training ground, it gives you time just to have a bit more certainty about what's expected of you. You can ask questions. You can bounce things off each other. You can ask him, what do you look? You say this, you know, I don't know, what do you want here? You can go through it, and the logistics of it, you've just got a bit more time to iron out, you know, any sort of uncertainty, because like a lot of things, uncertainty just upsets the foundations of things. If you're questioning what you're doing in a game, you need to be instantaneous. The best teams sort of look like they know what they're doing. they know round pegs, round holes. They know exactly where the teammate is, and it's like a well-oiled machine. When you've got a bit of uncertainty about, am I in the right space? Does he want me to make this run? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Then you're only talking about fractions of a second, but it can slow the fluidity of the whole team down. So it's good from that aspect to be able to get that, or a little bit of it ironed out on the training ground, so players know where they stand. But it's a step up, and again, more logistically than anything. It's still managing players. It's still a mixture of tactics and man management and motivation, which all managers, head coaches, that's what the role entails. I think the fact of going from sort of part time to full time, the only logistical sort of difference you've got is putting on more sessions a week. Planning your sessions every day, maybe a couple of one day, finding out if you're having a day off in the week. All things like that. When you're only part time, you've obviously only got maybe 2 nights in the week or 2 days in the week you can actually get training sessions on. So logistically, it's planning your weeks like that. You've got a run of games coming up. It's not like coming in at the start of a season where you've got pre-season and time to sort of pre-plan everything. We're right in the heart of a season. We're right in the heart of a real tough run of fixtures. And, he's got to get up to speed quickly. I'm sure he will do. I don't think that's going to be a problem. But that's just part of what the difference between part-time and full-time will be.
A few more from the message boards. Kyle Motson says, delighted with this appointment and the signing of Warner. Glad we didn't go near Warnock, who no doubt is a club legend, but doesn't fit our philosophy at all. Evening from Newark, says Adam Kent. Craig Simmons says, Maynard gets a thumbs up from me. Think he'll do a grand job. Derek Flowers, results went our way on Saturday. Indeed, he did. I got a load of messages about R4 saying it'd be the first time we're out the playoffs for don't know how long, and then of course all these late goals went in, and we're still sixth. Rich Hawksworth, I wonder if Maynard, here we go, will ring the changes. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, get yourself a part-time job on the Daily Star, Rich. Graham Oates, evening from Grantham. Simon Blair, given the brothers' previous 2 appointments, it would have been more remarkable had it been someone we knew. Good luck to him. Adam Kent, glad we have a permanent replacement manager, not just one till the end of the season. Ian Bircham, I can see 1 or 2 of our players going out on loan with a callback clause in case of injury. Andy Easom, evening from him. A certain other Warner's catchphrase with proposed intensive pitch renovation in the pipeline. Could we run to undersoil heating too? They're expensive undersoil, $500,000. I mean, one thing no one has mentioned is finance. I know a lot of you try and preach to me and say, but with all them crowds, it can't have cost the brothers that much more money. Getting promoted last year, average crowd of 7,000 or 8,000. 2.75 million quid burned a hole in the brothers' pockets. That's getting promoted. Expensive business. I have been speaking to Kieran Maguire, who some of you would know is kind of like the business voice of football, runs a football business course, very switched on with all the accounts. So in the next few weeks, Kieran will be joining us on the podcast, and we can have a bit of a detailed dive, not just at Notts, but I guess the way clubs in League Two and other clubs operate and run. And, I think you may be surprised at the cumulative losses that football clubs generate almost to every single club. There's probably 3 or 4 that break even. But, good on the fact we got the brothers. Good on them that they got deep pockets. Gary Lee, what a week. New coach, new manager, and topped it off with buying the last available away shirt on Saturday. Pete dropped Kedwin's number and name bar on the back. Well, we look forward to seeing Ked very soon. His dad is normally on the message boards and watching. Clearly, he can't give too much away. That has to come from the head coach in terms of when he's likely to be returning, but hopefully not too far off. Now, Derek Flowers, players should be professional in their roles, no matter who the manager is. Absolutely, but we all know how it works. Ian G read that Norwich have sent the lad to play, let us play for us. Hopefully not another Tipton. Martin Shipley, we've now signed a midfielder, a goalie and a defender, just as many wanted. Surely all three will play against Barrow. Be surprised. Zedo, evening, can see some youngsters out on loan and maybe a defender or someone like Randall. Bench is still weak, says Adrian Dexter, in the area of strikers. Wayne Wilkins tuning in from Barcelona as he does. Stuart Maynard appointment is growing on me since it was confirmed. Chris Gosling, basically don't upset the brothers and we'll be all right. Seldom a truer word spoken, Chris. Gary Lee says, I managed to put my Magpie redemption book down for an hour to watch this. If you ain't, this is honestly not me. This is not me under a nom de plume. If you ain't bought it, then go and buy it. It will pull you in and draw some memories out from Wembley. Drop me a tenner later, Paul. And coincidentally, I've just got the very, 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 very last set of copies. So there's a link. They're back on eBay and they will be in the club shop on Saturday. Right. That's enough for them for the time being. Still, we're still in the playoffs. Some fans are almost kind of saying, well, it's a rebuilding time or a regrouping time, not too disappointed if we, drop out the playoffs, rebuild for next season. Personally, I think you've got to go hell for leather to get up this season. What's your take? It's never ideal to lose a manager or head coach, and clearly it is one of the highest risks to a successful football club, isn't it? If Klopp left Liverpool, if Guardiola left Man City, it doesn't matter how much money they've got. It's a huge upheaval, isn't it? Everything gets thrown up in the air. Given this change has been enforced on us, how do you see, now Stuart is in, how does this affect our chances of making the playoffs at the end of the season in your eyes?
I don't think it should affect it, too much either way. Hopefully it affects it positively. It can just be a fresh pair of eyes, a fresh way of doing things. Not that there's anything wrong, but obviously results weren't great towards the end of Luke's reign, what turned out to be the end of Luke's reign. So maybe just a fresh pair of eyes, fresh impetus, fresh way of trading, fresh methods. Maybe that can just, light a bit of a fire under one or two. Get the creative juices flowing, if you like, of the team, or just garner everyone together again. It's, look, you can always look at these things, glass half full, glass half empty kind of way. Look, it can derail the season. It's a disruption that you don't want. Or you go, well, let's take it as a positive. We've got another good manager in, good coach, who's going to come in and try and, with a fresh set of eyes, see where we're going wrong, try and improve the weaknesses, try and maintain and improve where we are good, as I said earlier, and get us towards the line, get us over the line, and get us up the divisions. The goal is still, to get promoted, be that automatic, be that via the playoffs. But I'm not disappointed to hear that some fans saying, well, do you know what? Consolidate and we'll take that, because what you don't want to do is it be, in coming straight in and going, well, you've got till when's the season finish? End of April. You've got what, three and a bit months, and if you don't get us promoted, then we're all going to put you right under the pressure now because you've failed. So it does take a little bit of the pressure off, but that's not to say you can take the pressure off or the expectation off. But that doesn't change the aim, where the aim is still to finish as high up the table as possible. Aim for them automatics. But like I say, the old saying, isn't it? Shoot for the stars, and if you just narrowly miss out, you've not done too bad. We've still got to go for them automatic spots. We've got these teams above us coming up to play. Now, if we have a good run, if we get results, then the table will look different in 6 or 7 games' time, and it'll look a whole lot more appealing. Conversely, things don't go so well, it'll look differently again, adversely. So, look, you can use any excuse. You can look for turning points and everything in season, but let's try and use this as a positive. It's a coach that's been picked out, and he's not just been picked out because he's done well at Wealdstone, although that's obviously a main factor. He will have had 1, maybe 2 interviews, and probably some informal chats as well with the brothers, Richard Montague. to back up what they were seeing, what the data was telling them, or what they were seeing with their eyes when we've seen Wealdstone, when they've looked at that. There'd have been other managers in the frame, of course, or other coaches in the frame. And it's not like he's just the only one available. He's the man they've chose to get. And they chose pretty well with Ian Burchnell. They chose really well with Luke Williams. Now, hopefully, they can continue that progress chart. And this guy is better than Luke Williams. And we're sat here in 18 months' time saying, right, then Premier Boys stay away from Stuart Maynard.
Wayne Wilkins says, if we taper off this season, yes, we'll get some money, but we'll lose our biggest assets. We have to go for it this season. I think Wayne is making the point there that does the futures of people like Macaulay Langstaff, who've stepped up a division for each of the past 3 seasons, start to reassess that. Chris Gosling, Luke Williams was getting linked to every vacancy going. At least we'll get a few months respite from unsettling rumours, more so when the window closes. Ian G says Salford made the playoffs with 75 points last season. They ain't getting that many this season. We are 32 points away from that, so very achievable. The small farmer life, that's a new one on me. They're picking up, are you mixing your metaphors or whatever the phrase is, Stell? It's actually shoot for the moon. And if you miss, you'll still land between the stars, Stell. Come on. Lippy Jane comes back. This is quite a good one. I like being under the radar and aiming high. Duncan Connery, I think it might be a blessing in disguise. Luke was brilliant for us, but it appeared he had his favourites despite the results. So now hopefully the whole squad is given a real chance. Adam Kent, Chris Gosling. Let's also not forget there were humblings of the sack for Luke Williams before he left. Really, Adam? I'm not sure about that. Only in the world of Twitterati. And every week Stell has to rein me in so I don't abuse them. So I'm not going down that road. I tell you what was interesting, Stell, when I was watching the interview with Luke. And I thought Natalie Jackson did some very good questions. She even managed to slip in and call him to his face a novice, which I thought was quite brave, but she did it quite well. But I understood the points that were being made. He didn't duck it with regards defending. And I thought that maybe shows maybe a little bit of steel underneath there. He came out straight away and said, look, we need to change a bit of that. We need to tweak this, do that. He didn't just duck it and say, oh, well, blah, blah. He actually fronted it up in terms of some changes need to be made, redefending, which I found quite interesting. And I would be very surprised if there isn't, changes in the way we defend, potentially personnel with the arrival of the new guy today. We had an aesthetic conversation last week where you kind of said 9 times out of 10, we can't keep going conceding all these goals and it not affecting us, but we were still in the playoffs and still are. I would be very surprised if he doesn't make some changes to shore the defence up, be it a different formation, bit change of personnel, and bring the new lad in very quickly, because when we've had a previous centre half this season, for instance in Ollie Tupton, we are desouring for the entire duration of the loan. What do you make of that in terms of changing the defensive setup a little bit?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he didn't duck the questions. I think he's spoken well. The interviews that I've seen of him, the questions he's been asked, and also there's no need to duck questions when you're new in through the door as well, because if you're they tread carefully, trying not to sort of pull the rug out from those that have gone previously,
yeah, you don't
by saying by saying everything's rubbish and this, that, and the other, to try and buy yourself a bit of time to do things. But you shouldn't need to duck it as well, because you're right. He's got to have that steel. He's got that steel about him. I've seen some interviews. I remember him speaking when he was Wealdstone manager, and he does, like all managers, you feel they've got to have that authority and that ability to make cutthroat decisions. Because if you don't in this game, you'll get found out. You can't be nice all the time. You've got to be decisive every Saturday and Tuesday night. Whenever you've got a game, you've got to pick 11 players. So when it comes specifically to how we go about defending or how we go about conceding less goals, then I'd be amazed if he come in and sort of said anything other than, yeah, we do need to tweak things. I think any of us would want to tweak things. Some of us would want to, scrap it, rip it up and start again. And some of us would say, well, look, we need to tweak it. It's the balance is the biggest thing in football. Getting that balance between playing your football, playing your attacking football, having your attacking threats, but also keeping it tight at the other end. We talk about it all the time. The game is won and lost in both penalty areas. So he's got the chance to change it now. How he goes about it, we will have to watch this space, wait and see. Do we look to get the ball forward a little bit quicker? Still play, but look to get the ball forward a little bit quicker. Keep the gaps between the lines a little bit more. And again, I'm at pains to say it's not just the three centre halves that we play, predominantly three centre halves. Because if you look in and around the three centre halves that play for Notts, whichever three it is, you look at the wing backs, again, whoever they are, predominantly almost like wingers. Jody Jones, brilliant going forward. Aaron Aman, brilliant going forward with his pace and what have you. You wouldn't say defending is their top category, and then midfield players in front of them. Since Matty Palmer's got injured, particularly, we just seen, okay, the jury's out. Scott Robertson, he might come in and fill that void for us. We don't know. But, they have been exposed and mercilessly exposed at times and been found wanting individually as well. It's not, they're certainly not blameless. But it is always, as a manager, as a head coach, it's setting up the team to do both things, attacking, scoring goals and keeping them out at the other end. And the utopia is if you can continue scoring at the rate Notts are doing, obviously top scorers in the division, and then reduce that goals against column, then by the very nature of it, you would imagine that results have got to improve and therefore the league position will look brighter. But it's a very difficult balancing act to come in and do anything, immediately, because you've got the personnel that you've got. Yes, we've got, the new lad today, the lad from Norwich, Warner, isn't Jayden Warner?
Jayden Warner.
So we'll wait and see. He's had a little taste of first team experience this season for Norwich. Played against Fulham, I think, and then a couple of other league games. So he's not completely untried and untested at first team level. So again, decisions to be made. He'll have a look at them in training, whether he makes a start on Saturday, what he opts to do. I assume he'll play a back three based on sort of things he said. But again, that might be a change. He might look at the personnel and think, I think we're better off with a four. And then add your lineup in front. Do we have two holding midfield players in front of them? Do you play 4-5-1? Any formation. Again, this is the tactics part of it. The man management part and the motivation part is the other side of being a head coach, being a manager. But it's the tactical part we're discussing, and it's getting that balance right between not being too gung-ho that leaves yourself open and vulnerable against counter-attacks and any sort of attacks, but also not losing and blunting that real sharp attacking threat that we've got.
Very good. The Small Farmer Life, who corrected you on the moon and the stars, I have no idea whether this is a wind-up or not. I know this because I am Macca's dad, and that's what I would always tell him. Now then, if you are Macca's dad, the Small Farmer Life, what was a little... is it a village that he was brought up in Middlesbrough? Come on, spit it out straight away, because you would know if you are Macca's dad. I'm intrigued. You may well be. You might just be winding me up. We know we have Colin Scott Kedwin's dad listens all the time. Anyway, here's one for the flock. We've got Jayden Warner in. Would you put him straight in? We've all seen him on the video. We've seen the great 10-second clip, a cross between Beckenbauer and Harry Maguire. Still, I don't know. I have no reason why. I just have a little hunch you'll put him straight in Saturday. Just have a little hunch.
He might well do. Yeah, he might well do. I mean, I could have a 10-second highlight reel for my career. So. I don't think we'll judge too much on that, but but that's what you've got. That's all we've got to go on. We can't say would we put him straight in, because I imagine none of us have seen him play, or
I know. Certainly, I'm assuming Stuart Maynard has.
Yeah, but again, managers and head coaches make that decision. They'll see him in training, and they'll make that decision based on what they see in training. And there's not a manager. I know you say there that managers have their favourites, or somebody mentioned that he thought Luke Williams had their favourites. And yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. But it's generally managers have the players that they like in terms of not their buddy with them. It means they rate them. They rate them as having something more than maybe other players in the squad. That's why you get your so-called favourites that always seem to play. It's because the manager actually sees something that he rates in them, something that he likes, something that he thinks helps the team. Because the manager obviously ultimately, I keep saying manager should be head coach, but ultimately wants to win games. Otherwise, he gets the sack. So no head coach, no manager picks a team that he doesn't believe is the strongest team that they've got. Now, if Jaden Warner comes in this week, impresses in training, we're not bringing anybody in to not come and push for a first team place. Otherwise, there's no point in being in the building. But if he sees what good things from him this week, again, everybody's pretty much on a an even keel, an even footing at the minute. All the players have got a blank sheet. They've got to impress this new head coach and the coaches that come alongside him as well. And if you've been a regular player, then all of a sudden you think, right, I've got to prove why I'm a regular starter. And if you're not in the team, then you've got to go, right, I've got to show this man that I should be in the team. And again, whether Warner starts, we will wait and see. But he's certainly not been brought to the club to just sit and make up numbers.
We'll debate that in a moment longer. The small farmer life. He's spot on. Ragworth Estate, Stockton on tees. So I'm warming to the fact that the small farmer life is actually Macca's dad. I've no idea, but that is right. The obvious question, Macca's dad. The small farmer life. Where on earth do you get that from? Come on, let us know. We're all eager. As I expected, I think most people are calling for Jaden to be straight in. Straight in for me, says Ian Birchinall. Straight in, says Pythagorean. Love your comments, says Linda Loosdale. Positive as usual. Your thoughts on penalties, and if there are any, let them not be against us. John Gregory, put him straight in. Ian G, would we drop Baldwin for Jaden? Chris Gosling, very reassuring that Maynard had a chat with Warner and helped get the deal over the line when other teams were sniffing around. Kudos to our new head coach. Richard Tomlinson, 9 players. Take your word for it. No reason to not. Out of contract at the end of this season. Paul Stell, who do you think not should retain, let go? Tell you when we're in League One. David Amy, Brindley out for Jaden. Is Macari injured, Zedo? Yes. No one's quite sure what, other than it was an incident that took place at home, and we don't really know any more than that. Warner should be right centre back unless Baldwin not available. Macari is our player. Should he be on the bench for a loanee? The small farmer life, because I live on a small farm. Lol. Anyway, Andy Easom thought Scott Robertson looked a little like he was in play mode when all around him was in fast forward at Grimsby. Stephen, I don't think there's a lot wrong with the defence. Just get punished for nearly every error. Tough set of fixtures for the new guy, Stel. I mean, we managed to sort of park Stockport for a little bit. I mean, I must admit, and I am not saying this happens at all, but I know during my time at Leicester and one or two other clubs, it would be hilarious in the days leading up to a game when the manager wasn't quite keen for the game to go ahead. So the groundsman would put out the 30 frost covering sheets, but conveniently leave 2 sheets in either goal mouth. The wind blew them up a bit, and so it blew them over. And then the other little trick that they used to do at the Football League an awful lot, giving inside stories away. You would get your local friendly Football League referee, because all clubs have a ref that's in their locality, and they would be allowed to do the inspection. And the ref would turn up on a Friday morning. Lads, do you want to play or not? And then miraculously you get the right decision. What sort of return are you looking for here, Stell? Does he need to hit the ground running? Are you unduly worried if we don't win for 2 or 3? Because as you've rightly pointed out, although it's been a brilliant season, we're probably bottom half of the league for current form guide, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we are. I think over the last 10 games, I think we're something like 15th in terms of form. But, like I say, you can always take snippets out of a league, and you can make the data and stats say whatever you want to say. What I'm expecting is to see continuity in the way that we play football. I'm expecting to see there still be a threat, because I think we've got the individual players that, I mean, he'll be rubbing his hands together. Him and his coaches, they'll be rubbing their hands together to come and come and work with this quality player. They've not had this quality of player to work with before, and they'll be loving it. Again, they've got to maintain that steel. They've got to maintain a focus that, they set standards, just like Luke Williams did, that you can't just go, well, you're better than what I've had before, so whatever you do is great. He's got to push them. He's got to drive them. He's the jockey, if you like, with the whip, carrot and the stick and all that sort of thing. He's got to get, that's the motivation side of it, the man management side of it, get the best out of them good players. But I want to see us continue to be a threat to teams. Yes, we've got to try and address the concession of goals, the number of goals we concede. I think there's some sort of inevitability about the way that we want to play, that we are going to concede goals. We are not a team, and we have not got the setup, if you like, and the mantra of teams in the years gone by, George Graham's Arsenal, 1-0 to the Arsenal and all that. We are not that team. We are not that club. We are not set up to do that. Of course, we want clean sheets. We're not set up to concede goals, but I think there's an inevitability about the way we want to play expansive football at League Two level that will sometimes be able to be unpicked. There will be mistakes, and you will concede goals, obviously. It's just about bringing that number down. Look, tough games, but I sometimes think sometimes you get carried away looking at what a tough run of games we've got. This isn't Champions League games. We ain't got Barcelona followed by Real Madrid and Juventus around the corner. We've got League Two teams, good teams in League Two, but League Two teams, all beatable, all capable of beating us. And you need to make sure that the performance levels are high. If we perform, I still believe we can beat anybody in this league as well. I think arguably the best teams we've seen this season, Mansfield at home. I think they were strong. Wimbledon away, you would say we're strong, but we've got a tough run of games coming up, but not an insurmountable challenge that we need to be holding on for points here and points that. No, we've got games that are tough but winnable, and that's the difference in League Two than maybe sometimes you get in the Premier League and the real big boys where there is a gulf in quality and players. But although it's a tough run of fixtures, because we're only just over halfway through the season, every other club is going to have a tough run of fixtures. All these clubs that have got to face Notts County in the next 7 games or however many games, they've got a tough run of fixtures because they've got Notts County to play. The most potent attack in the division. So let them do the worrying about us. With Stuart Maynard now in charge, it's just about, for me, can the players quickly adapt is maybe not the right word, because it's not going to be too much of a change, but adapt to what he wants from them and how he wants to improve us. And if they can do that, then, like I say, it's probably a good thing we've got teams above us, because we can take points off them. Barrow 1 place above us, but 6 points ahead of us, but have played a game more. So beat them Saturday, then obviously we can catch them, level points and level games played if we win the game in hand. So look, I don't deal in ifs and buts and all them sort of things, but don't be scared of anything. Look forward to it. Thrive on it. Love playing the big games. Love it. There's going to be a great crowd there, I'm sure, Saturday, weather permitting that the game is on. But there should be a big crowd. His first game should be a great atmosphere, and hopefully that will carry the lads to success, because at home, we are still a formidable team at home.
Lots on the message boards, prompted largely by the small farmer life, brackets, potentially we understand, Macca's dad. Right. Chris Gosling says, if we stick with 3 at the back, I would play Macari, Baldwin and Warner. A fit Macari, Baldwin and Jaden for me across the back, echoes Ian G. I think your subscribers will go through the roof after tonight, Mr. Langstaff Senior, says Chris Gosling. Needs something similar up front when getting the ball into the 6-yard box on the floor isn't working. Andrew Thorpe says, if Macca is likened to Haaland, why can't Notts ask for a Premiership price for him? 1.5 is meagre when we can't, when you could get the likes of 30 or 40 million. Yeah, well, might be a trifle ambitious at this moment in time. Richard Tomlinson, do you have any news update on those players returning from injury? Any spotted back in training? What will be interesting, Richard, Luke was one of those people that or managers that really didn't like to put into the public domain anything about players returning from injury. I think he wanted to sort of keep it very quiet, get them working hard, no deadlines, false deadlines, setbacks. You say they're going to be back in 2 weeks, not back in 2. What's the setback in training? He kind of like went over here. But sometimes in the modern world, when we all want info, it does kind of lead to one or two conspiracy theories. And I know there's been all sorts of bits and pieces about Mr. Macari. I genuinely have no idea. Hope he's back soon. The Small Farmer Life, aka Mr. Langstaff Senior. What I would like to say, which I've never talked about, is how players actually feel when they lose a game. It can be really distressing to see your son and daughter go through these emotions. Indeed, it does. Stel, may as well talk a bit about Macca. What's his target between now and the end of the season?
Promotion. To get enough goals to get us promoted. Look, I never set a target, and I don't think he does, other than he believes he can go into games. And believe me, if I was playing in this Notts team, I believe I'd go into every game to score a goal. And when I get one, I'd go and get a second, and then go and get a third. There's that, that there's going to be chances created for you. There's going to be balls put into dangerous areas for you. So I always thought that setting a target could almost limit yourself. Back in the day, it always used to be 20, wasn't it? It was always deemed a good return. Numbers now have gone through the roof where, Macca with 40 odd last season, Ronaldo and Messi scoring goal a game almost throughout their career. So 20 almost seems a little bit, skinny, a little bit pessimistic. But look, he's got 20 goals, hasn't he, for virtually our first half of the season.
Yeah.
Who's to say he can't get anywhere near 40 by the end of this season? Again, if Notts have a good run, you never know. But I would never put any pressure on him to score goals, because what he does is fantastic. He's in the right place at the right time more often than not, provides the finish that's required, and his numbers in terms of goals, his goal return are fantastic. So don't put any more extra pressure on him. Just do what he does. Keep him fit. Keep him happy. Give him the service, and he'll score his goals. And hopefully them goals, allied to David McGoldrick, Dan Crowley, and others chipping in, hopefully them goals will take us to success.
35 goals minimum, says Ian G. Macca's dad, aka the Small Farmer Life, he doesn't set targets. I know he doesn't actually, when we did the podcast with him, because he thinks it would jinx him. And we never say score, and I would never say score for me, or he would go crazy. Ian Birchnell, another 6, and gets him 100 for 3 seasons. That's some return. While you're on Small Farmer Life, I mean, there's always speculation about Macca moving on. Now, people at the club, and I've obviously done a couple of podcasts with him, I think he's probably one of the most grounded players we've got at the club, despite being one of the highest value and highest profile. Did see David McGoldrick did a charity event up at, I think it was Eastwood, somewhere north of the city boundaries over the weekend. And he was asked about the situation with Macca. And he said, look, not going anywhere. Don't worry about him leaving in January. The stuff with Coventry was a complete load of rubbish. Anything you can share, I'm sure, would be gratefully received, the Small Farmer Life. And while we're just picking up with him, we've got Chloe just dialing in now. She couldn't quite make the start. So let's just pick up Chloe. Right, Chloe, second only to the Small Farmer Life, who's been entertaining us on the message boards, aka Macca Langstaff's dad tonight. Right, Chloe, let's have your take. Younger generation and all that. Mr. Mr. Maynard, happy?
Excited, really. It was a name that was actually circulating for a while, and I think we just assumed as Notts fans that it's never a name that we normally expect. So maybe it was a little bit of a surprise that we actually had heard about him before. And some people have probably put a bet on as well. And he was one of the first people that was kind of circulating to begin with. But look, he plays a lovely style of football, and it'll be interesting to see how he does. Obviously, step up a league, full-time job, full-time players, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do with the squad that we've got. And obviously, this means we're now attracting more players, and we've got our first deal through the window.
Stell, so Barrow, got to say, Pete Wild's done a not far off miraculous job. Ian Evatt did brilliantly to get them promoted, and I think maybe thought, there's a limit to where you can get Barrow, and has gone on to have a very successful managerial career, got another promotion with Bolton, got Bolton into the right place. Did you make that short trip to Barrow earlier in the season?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Just got back then, right, okay.
I was going to
say, I mean, if I remember rightly, first half, the general tone was, crikey, how are these team this high up? We should be 5 up. And by the end of the game, we're probably grateful to be returning with a point.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The first 20 minutes, they didn't know what to do, whether to press us. When they did, they couldn't get near us. We kept the ball. It was like a keep ball session. And if I remember rightly, we took the lead in that first half. I've got my notes here. It was a penalty. Yeah, it was a penalty. David McGoldrick took the penalty on it because, it was after, was it Macca took the penalty the game before and they swapped it. So, so we got the lead. And then, second half changed. We didn't go and get that second goal. We didn't, extend the lead, get us, the domination of possession perhaps deserved. I think, as I remember, we didn't create too many clear-cut chances. But then, they came on strong in the second half. I think they missed a golden opportunity, didn't they, in the last 5 minutes of the game. Was it Telford? Dom Telford dragged one wide when he should have scored. Might have been one of the other players. But either way, we sort of left with, we're actually lucky to have a point, really, on the road. And, it was early on in the season, but it sort of became a little bit symptomatic of our away form. At home, now, not so a different animal, but don't underestimate Barrow, who've got more points away from home than they have at home. Albeit they've played a couple of extra away games, but they've got 25 points on the road. So then the way Pete Wild's got them set up, there's no real difference between home and away for them. They're comfortable, so they'll be a tough nut to crack. They're well organised. He gets them working hard. But the first half for me up at Barrow showed that we have the quality. We have excess quality over what maybe they have in terms of individuals. But like I say, he's put together a really strong working outfit. And you're right to mention Ian Evatt as well. He's doing fantastic things at Bolton now. Did really well there. But you just think if Notts play how we know they can play on a nice big pitch, if assume the pitch is in good condition, then I just fancy Notts at home every game. And although Barrow will be a tough nut to crack, they've got no obvious weakness. I just think if Notts play anything like, then they'll take the 3 points.
How pleased to see a new defensive addition, Jaden Warner, coming in today, Chloe?
Quite pleased, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, I've seen a couple of clips that Notts have posted, and looks like the kind of person we need. Obviously, only on loan and one of the younger lads, but we know that the new manager prefers to have a bit of a younger squad. So, if anything, it's competition for place, and I do think we are struggling for that a little bit. I imagine he's going to play 3 at the back, but it's difficult. And if he's anything like Luke, he won't be in the first game. They obviously like to see them train for a while. So I don't know what will happen defensively and the personnel that will be in on Saturday. So that'll be certainly interesting looking at the lineup. It might be exactly the same, and it might take a couple of games to either he'll stick or he'll twist. And it's nice to just see another body in there. And for me, like I've just said, competition for place is the best thing that you can have, and you want people to strive to be better when they've got somebody on their tails. So it'll be interesting, but I think that was what we were all looking for, a defender. And whether we get anybody else in, whether that's another defender or anywhere across the pitch, it's nice to see that people are wanting to come here and fight for their place. And obviously Norwich trust us. We had a great loan spell out of Archie Mayer, so we've clearly got a good relationship with Norwich. So it's interesting. Again, it's just nice to see things are happening now. We obviously had a couple of weeks of radio silence from Notts, which is not the worst thing in the world. We've had the opposite with people like Alan Hardy, and you never really know what's true. So it's different, but it's nice to know we've got that ball rolling now, and we've got another few days. Is it just over a week of the window? So it'll be nice to see what happens. And obviously we've had a week with the manager come this weekend, and he'll have had full training sessions, whereas the Stockport game would have been a little bit different. And I imagine you'd have seen virtually the same or a similar team that you did against Grimsby, with it being more Jim O'Brien at the forefront of it again, with it obviously Maynard only having a day. But I think this will be more him and his coaches now coming into next Saturday. So I'm really looking forward to it. And it's a change that we weren't expecting, or some fans didn't want, but you've got to embrace it. And like we've always said all this time, trust the owners, and they've done a great job so far. So why wouldn't we trust him and put everything we've got into the new manager and his coaches?
How many more players, if any, would you like to see brought in between now and the end of the window? Personally, probably look for the minimum 2, maybe 3. Another defender. I think at least one more striker. You can never have Neil Warnock. You can never have too many strikers, can you, Stel? Let's just get a few more comments before going back to you. Macca won't go this season, says Jurgen Halligan. Get promotion and he'll stay. The small farmer life is rapidly becoming a cult, adopting cult status on this show. Macca loves Notts. He's really happy here, and he's obviously ambitious, but his life is Notts. Andrew Blatherwick says, Ree Maynard, the Who once wrote in a song, Meet the New Boss, same as the old boss. Hope they just tightened things up a bit at the back. Good time to play Barrow, says Jurgen. They lost at home on Saturday, although as the fountain of all knowledge, Mr. Stallard has told us they got more points, which I didn't know, away from home than at home. And to be fair, that's a real a stat you would not expect, given the trip that we made to Barrow once a season. Barrow have to make 23 of them the other way. So small farmer, we love Macca. Really hope he plays with us at the higher levels. This is a good one from A.D. Clark. Great to hear Macca's dad. I'm sure you'll be moving to a bigger farm one day soon. I remember when we had Macca's dad, what's his name? Some geezer at Manchester City, Jack Grealish, on loan at Notts, and his dad used to come every game, Notts, home and away. And I know his dad's very tight with him to this day at Manchester City, but he used to come down to all the Notts games and go to the away games when Jack was on loan at Notts, because that was the first time he was really able to see his son play senior men's football. What else have we got? Stephen Ramage, I think if the players are confident, there are not many teams who don't fear coming to Meadow Lane, and that's how it should be. Remy's joined us from New York. The small farmer life, Macca's dad. Wow, cheers for the subs to my channel. It's all about helping people, so it's great to add to my subscription count. We'll tell Macca he has to stay now or else. Please tell him that. Absolutely. What else have we got? I would like to see another striker signed, says Gary Phillips. Any injury to Langstaff or Didsty really causes us problems. Stel, ex-pro, given that we're serious about staying in the playoffs, and we saw before when we got a few injuries, the bench got very weak. How many more would you look to be bringing in an ideal world?
Oh, look, in an ideal world, money no object. I'd be like you. I'd like to see three more strong additions. I think realistically, I think possibly one more would be good, and I think I would back up. I would back up what you're saying. You can never have two strikes. That's one thing we've noticed with the bench. There's not many attacking options, and certainly no proven goal scoring attacking options. Obviously, Kedwin Scott's a long-term absentee, so we've not seen him this season. Junior Marias has missed more games than he's probably been available for, but again hasn't scored any goals when really when he's played. So and then you've got James Sanderson, who, like I say, you mentioned today, signed his first professional contract, and
Yes,
congratulations to him.
Yes.
He came on and showed he can find the back of the net, has looked accomplished. But and although he won't want to hear this, and when you're young, you just want to be part of it, you want to play every week. You shouldn't be reliant on a 17-year-old, an untried 17-year-old, to be, if Macca gets injured and Kedwin's not back and Junior's, James Sanderson, you've got to score us the goals to get us up in the promotion places. No, you can't expect that, So, I would always like somebody else. I see, Barrow have brought in Cole Stockton, haven't they? In the last couple of days from Burton, again to strengthen their attacking options. So, it might well be that the only one you can get in would be a sort of a young lad, a little bit like Jaden Warner, sort of 21-year-old who's out looking for first team games, and it might be that they have to wait till that back end of the window, so all the business can be done, so they know who's available before they can release some young lads. But I would imagine something like that, maybe a sort of youngish, but older than 17, but youngish sort of striker who's eager, wants to prove himself, and wants to play some first team football and can score goals. But hopefully he doesn't have to get a game, but at least it would give us an option off the bench.
Yeah, does James Sanderson even make you feel old, Chloe? 17, he's already scored a goal, made his debut, slightly behind Stell, because I think Stell modestly told us when I asked him, I didn't know this, you scored, was it as a 16-year-old?
Yeah, 2 days before my 17th birthday, at Middlesbrough, actually. Yeah.
Macca's dad was probably watching you.
He might have been. He might have been on his farm there. But like I say, I'm that old. It was Ayresome Park. It wasn't the Riverside. So, yeah.
So, Chloe, so the young lad, always good to get a bit of a production line, because as a result of what's happened to the club, one of the major casualties was the youth scheme. So great to see a young Nottingham lad. He was playing for Arnold Boys under 16, sat in front of me 2 months ago watching Notts games. How times can change very quickly.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's great when you've got somebody, I mean, it's a little bit different, but when it's through an academy, homegrown is always ideal, or even just from a young age. And obviously we've not been able to do that a lot recently, but they're the ones you look out for. And if you can get a diamond and they either become a club legend and stay with you throughout, or you get a good bit of money for them. So it's always nice to find the little diamonds in the young lads, and it's great to see them come through. And like we've said before, with the new manager, he likes the younger lads and wants to see them come through. So hopefully we'll have a couple of seasons in the league, and obviously consolidating, whether that be consolidating in this league, going up and consolidating, and then get that academy going again. So like you say, it is great to see, and it's just nicer that we've got somebody to come off the bench. It's hard at this time of year, especially if you do want a striker. We're lucky that we have got Langstaff, and he is fit, and touch wood, he's not going to pick up an injury. So we're lucky in the sense that we're not looking for somebody to replace Langstaff or somebody to replace our top goal scorer in January, which is difficult. And we are in a better position, and we can look at younger lads. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get his chances this season. Coming off the bench, and you never know, prove himself, could score a couple, and you never know what can happen.
The Small Farmer Life, signing off, I believe. One more thing before I go. Watching my son break the goals record for the club was one of the proudest moments of my life, and I sat so quiet till he scored. Lol. Very good. This is a bit optimistic. Ian G. Miley at 17 at Newcastle, doing the business. So if you're good enough, you're old enough. I thought for a minute you were going to say getting in on loan. Yeah, that'd have been some loan signing. Derek Flowers, Evan relied on an 18-year-old, whatever happened to him. aka Mr. Rooney, I believe. Somehow or other, Tommy Lawton's made it into the conversation here. Not quite sure how. Martin Shipley, there was a time when good strikers would be picked up from Scotland. Never seems to happen these days. Gary Phillips seems to have a bit of knowledge of the youth team. Sanderson isn't the only one. Gill and Mahovo look steady too. Yeah, and I think fans always love to see someone come through the youth system, and if they're a local kid as well, the more, so much better. And hopefully now we're back in the league, that will give us something of a production line, because it's always easier to bring in quality players through the ranks, better option than buying them in an ideal world. We're looking to wrap up now. Stel, you will be down on Saturday, presumably?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Like I say, weather permitting.
Yeah, I think we'll be playing Saturday. Have a fiver. I don't know. The odds won't be very good, but I think we'll be playing that one. Chloe, are you on Burnley duty or not?
No, I'll be back down. A bit annoying about the Stockport one. Obviously, travelled down for it, but can't be helped. But yeah, I'll be back down next weekend for that one.
Well, hey, I was at the with my lad at the Asia Cup in Doha, Qatar, all last week. 10 games, doing a bit of buffaloing, scouting, as Alan Birchner would euphemistically say. The matches I saw that involved, hang on, I can't remember them all. Tajikistan, Qatar, Jordan, Malaysia, United Arab Emirates, Korea, Japan, Bahrain, I think. So I flew back overnight. We flew back overnight Friday, got off the plane, and of course the first thing you get off the plane at like 8:25, 8:30 match off. Although I did think it was quite hilarious on Facebook. There was some guy coming up from Exeter on 2 National Express buses, and the first National Express bus, believe it or not, left at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to London. And then from London up to Nottingham. And of course, so an 8:30 pitch inspection was not of great use to him. But I think he got to Meadow Lane, and I think he's got some photo with holding a pair of Jody Jones's trainers or something. So whether he went to the ground or met the players, I don't know. But yeah, it does. There are great tales of people doing all sorts of things to get to games. Hey, we'll be on Saturday that way, and looking forward to the start of the Stuart Maynard era. That's the hour done for tonight. Thank you ever so much, Chloe, for joining us. Knew it was a bit tight for you tonight, so thank you. Stel, as always, delighted to have the pearls of wisdom, and we look forward to catching up all again soon. It's cheers from me, Stel.
Cheers. Yep, pleasure.
Thanks again, Paul.
Yeah, all right. Thank you everyone for joining in tonight, especially I think we can say it's Macaulay Langstaff's dad, but you never 100% know. I will be picking this up with Macca tomorrow and the club, just to see whether his father does have a YouTube channel called The Small Farmer Life or something. Hilarious. These things throw up all sorts of things. Anyway, thank you, and we will see you all next week. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.
Cheers.